Hi, my name is Jelena Žarković, and I'm working as a digital transformation consultant in ITI Group. Few weeks ago, two lovely ladies from HR department, Amy and Chloe, came to us to do some amazing training. And a group of people I'm working with and Amy, we all had one interesting task. So Amy said, guys, can you please just draft uh, how for you scientist looks like? And we all got a piece of paper and started drawing. And at the end of that task, we all had some strong men with the glasses, probably men to represent how they are dominant in STEM and in that world. Glasses to represent how clever is that man, and they all were really tall, probably to represent how actually capable and strong they are. But Amy, what she did actually, she showed us an amazing photo of an amazing woman, and she said, "This woman, she's also a scientist. She's also in STEM." So this is one funny and educational story because we all were so surprised that we didn't think of that at all. And that's my introduction. For two lovely ladies I have with me in studio today who will share their experience in engineering and telling in engineering. And today with me here, Kelsey Crawford and Natasha Thompson. Welcome, ladies.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Special thanks to Kelsey, who was traveling across the pond just to record a couple of sessions today with us.
Yeah.
So, Kelsey, are you jet lagging? How are you?
A little bit. I came in Saturday night.
Yeah.
I came into Manchester. So had the day in Manchester. Spent most of that, to be honest, sleeping, which is not that exciting. So just trying to get through the jet lag best I can. But happy to be here and happy talking about women in STEM.
Yeah, it's a pleasure for having you. And Natasha, sorry for pronouncing your name wrong. In part of the world where I am from, we say Natasha and you would say Natasha, right?
Natasha, yeah. Sounds okay.
I will just call you Tasha. So yeah. Interesting thing, we are all from different parts of the world. So myself, I'm coming from Eastern Europe, from Serbian ITI office. And you two ladies, you, Tasha, you are based in
Sheffield. So yeah, I'm English. I'm from here, yeah.
If you can't tell by the accent.
And Kelsey, you are
Yeah, so I'm based in Toronto. If also you can't tell by mine. So yeah, it's nice to have people from different countries to kind of represent.
Yeah, it's interesting. So all together today, we can maybe share our experience. And for something to start with, girls, I would like to hear. I believe that you are both relatively new within the business. So can you maybe share for how long? How did it all happen?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So I've been with the company about 9 months now, so it's not that long. And I'm a graduate systems engineer. So it's my first job in the industry straight after university. I did electrical engineering at uni. And yeah, so I'm kind of still learning. I think you'll always be learning with engineering though, but yeah.
Yeah, it's the bottom with no hole, right? So it's all there is always space for learning.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And what about you, Kelsey?
Yeah, I joined, I think, 5 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago. I don't know, it's flying by pretty fast. My background's in chemical engineering. So I graduated back in 2019. I started working at Deloitte on their supply chain team, and I was doing manufacturing consulting basically. And after that, I was kind of just looking for something new, looking to get maybe a little bit more technical, kind of go back to my engineering roots. I was doing a lot more of kind of the business strategy side of things. So definitely was missing that component. So yeah, someone from ITI Group reached out to me on LinkedIn and back in last December. Yeah, joined the team. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's been really good.
perfect. Yeah, I actually know way more about you than about Natasha because we are working technically in the same team. However, I've joined now 2.5 years ago, and that's at the time when I joined the ITI group. Actually, that was the time when I joined this world. So I have absolutely different background. I have some artisty background, and I was I was in medical school. My high school is medical school, and I was surrounded by boys. Oh, sorry, by girls, by girls. And in the whole class, we had just the two boys, and I couldn't understand how you can have environment where like predominantly male environment. So for me, it was like something I didn't understand or I didn't know, and I couldn't find that as a struggle. And then I joined the group, ITI group, 2.5 years ago. And first thing I noticed was like, I remember I was visiting the client. It was some sales workshop, and there was like 14 guys in the room and myself. And it was probably my second time on site. And I was sat, it was it was a really big table, and there was a lady coming from predominantly female environment. I can that also exists, ladies. It also exists. And that was the very first time that I started thinking, where the lady's gone. So that's how I started. And I'm curious to know how your start looked like. What was the response you got from your family, your environment, when you said, okay, I want to do engineering?
Yeah, I guess I can go first. So for me, my dad is an electrical engineer as well.
Okay.
And I have an older brother who ended up going into software engineering. And so I'm from a town called Sarnia, where basically is the chemical valley, we call it, of Canada. So there's lots of different refineries. So it's very much that town where a lot of engineering resides. And so I think growing up, it was kind of always said, oh, if you're good at like maths and science, do engineering. That's a very common thing. Originally, I did want to do business. I was kind of thinking, like, I took an accounting class. I did those like stock market simulation games, thinking that one day I'd make it big there. Um, but I think having that conversation with my dad in grade 11, grade 12, and kind of realizing, do engineering first. And then it's easy to pivot from engineering into something else. Like engineering is just such a good career option. There's so many different doors and opportunities that are open. And I think also people have a very different view on what engineering actually is. Like, especially in Canada, like our regulation body, a lot of it is focused on civil engineering and that background, whereas chemical engineering, a lot of people really just think it's chemistry,
Yeah.
which is like the farthest thing from what it actually is. So it's a lot about process optimization and things like that. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen How It's Made,
Yeah,
that
of
show.
course. Yeah.
So I remember watching that with my dad when I was a kid. And so it was kind of one of those things where it wasn't an immediate, oh my goodness, like I'm so excited to do engineering. This is what I meant to do. But then once I found it in first year university, I just really liked the idea of solving those complex problems, but also the community it came with. Like, I don't know about you guys and like here in the UK, but in Canada, like there's such a community of like engineers going through university, doing it together because it's a tough program. And so I also really fell in love with that as well.
Yeah. So, speaking about how it's made, when I started doing this role, that's how I spent all my Friday evenings watching how it's made. And you girls, you girls were lucky to get that experience through your education. So, Natasha, how your educational path looked like, and what was response of you got from your family and friends once when you decided to?
So my family, no one really was in like the engineering route, so it was quite new to me. I kind of had to do that myself, and I really liked maths and physics, so it was quite natural to go into engineering. It was a good pathway, but I think I had to kind of figure it out for myself in a way. And I think I went to a STEM day in school, and we got talking with different stalls, and and I think that was the starting point where I realized, like, oh, I'd be interested in this, and then I kind of had to do my own research. But when I told my family, they were like, oh, that's cool. Like, there wasn't old fashioned views at all. Like, no stereotypes. They were quite interested
Quite
in it. Yeah.
supported you, right? Right. Okay, and so far it looks like everything is pinky. This is one perfect world. Ladies are well accepted, and it's absolutely brilliant. But any challenges so far, ladies? Have you ever been in any situation that you said, like, okay, because according statistics, there was like the number of women in engineering started massively growing somewhere around like 2018. So there was like, I think that's jump. Now I'm sharing some data which are global because we are from three different parts of the world. But like, I think from 16% ladies got to like 18%, and now 2022 they like are starting going backwards.
Yeah, I think the Canadian universities, it's always been around like 20%
Yeah.
females. I don't know about in the UK if it's been the same.
I'm not sure with statistics, but in my classes, I was with just one other female.
Yeah,
Right.
especially electrical.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but any ideas why? Why it's still so? You, Natasha, you were saying, okay, it's not taboo, it's well accepted, and like people are delighted. And any ideas why we are still not even close to be half half?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It's one of those things, though. When I was in university, I remember talking to one guy, and he kind of made a comment of like, "Oh, well, men just inherently make better engineers. They've, oftentimes been playing with cars or things like that from a little kid, or like they're playing more like hands on, right?" And so I think like that kind of, I was a little taken aback because it's like, obviously, that's not fundamentally true. Um, Anyone can make a good engineer if you want to. But I think it is a lot in the way that we kind of just have a lot of societal norms, really. And so, like for me, I have an older brother. So I was doing a lot of the things that you typically see boys doing when they're younger and kind of gone down that path and was interested in that path. But maybe if I had an older sister or an older brother who was interested in something different, I wouldn't, right? So I think it's what you're exposed to a lot as a kid. Like, I don't know if you
Yeah,
have the same experience.
I agree. I think it goes back to literally growing up with toys,
Yeah.
even like the toys boys get, they're building, they're doing like hands-on things, but girls' toys are like
Yeah.
brats. Well,
Dolls, brats,
yeah, I
I
grew
have
up with
those too.
those. And I think it's yeah, so it's like you said, it's the norms, isn't it? Like we're not as engaged into
Yeah.
that.
Well, and it's interesting because like I've worked with, like my university I was at, I did like women in STEM outreach and worked with a few different organizations. And I think everyone always looks to try and make influences or impacts in the later half of high school. And so they're saying, okay, we needed to talk to the females in, grades 9, 10, or 11 in Canada. I think that's too late. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's so much younger. And then you start thinking about like, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? Like, if you ask a bunch of young girls right now what they want to be when they grow up, have any of them heard of engineering? I don't know.
I didn't.
Right? So, and a lot of times, like, I think situations of the females ending up in engineering is similar to my background, where a family member or, like, someone they know has told them about it, so then they're exposed to it. So I think that's honestly the biggest thing is exposure, and, like, you look at, honestly, something even just like Barbie having, like, all the different job options and stuff, right? Like, is there an engineering Barbie? I don't know. And if it is, I mean, it would probably be someone in a construction hat as well, which
Yeah.
is not really
The
the best
stereotype
yeah, it's
again.
such a stereotype. So I think there's a little bit of the societal norms and then also a little bit of the question of what is engineering, right? Like, it can be so many different things.
So if you have that power to encourage young ladies to start to enter this world, do you have any ideas how you would do that? Yeah, because I even think that like toys are shared, something like blue toys and pink toys, or so is that like through I don't know, through education? Is that through engaging with them through different workshops? What would be the right way?
Yeah, I think so there's a few different things that I've seen. Like there's a couple organizations in Canada who do like summer camps for
Mm-hmm.
females. And it's
Mm-hmm.
basically they take them out for the weekend to like Muskoka or something, and then they run a bunch of games and events. And it's a lot of things you end up doing throughout your engineering degree of like building a catapult or something like that, or building like a mousetrap, like those kind of classic things, or also coding.
Mm-hmm.
So there's different camps, and they're girls who are in kind of that grade, like 5 to 8 age range. So it's fun for them because 'cause they're just going away to camp for friends, but you're also subtly kind of plugging
Yeah.
engineering.
Yeah.
So I think running things like that and just making it seem fun, like making it seem like a glamorous option, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed doing stuff like that in school where we had to, there was like an egg on the roof and you'd cut it and you had to design like a structure
Yeah.
to save it. Yeah. It's stuff like that, isn't it? Like practical things and then bringing engineering into that and
Yeah.
telling women that this is what you could be doing. It isn't like just the working as a mechanic in a car shop or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think debunking the stereotypes of engineering, maybe like a comedy show or something. That would be fun. Like something.
Maybe we should
Yeah.
start something,
Yeah, maybe. If anyone's
Three
listening,
different
wants to help
accents.
out. Yeah. I think it could be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. We can write it down. Bouncing some ideas around. Have you ever get that comment like, "Oh, you're an engineer. You must be clever."
Yeah. From my grandma, actually. She's always very excited that I did engineering. But yeah, I think a lot of people kind of make that assumption. I don't know if you get that as well, Tasha.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
It's interesting though, because it's like, yeah, I think we're clever, but also it's like hard work. Like
Yeah.
I think it's more so that than a innate intelligence, I would say. It's kind of just who wants to do it, like who wants to put in the effort to do it.
Yeah. I think I showed you one picture before we started this conversation today, and it should pop in somewhere on the screen at some point. So personally, I think that's actually the illustration of feministy or orientated illustrator. I think her name is, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, Lane Molnar, something like that. And I remember when I saw that illustration, my thought was like, "Oh my goodness, I'm using all of this." But as a woman and engineer, do you feel safe? There is a lot of traveling. There is a lot of on-site work. How that all experience made you feel? Do you feel like after all that traveling, after all that like, on-site experience, being on your own for like days, for weeks, do you feel like, okay, now I really feel stronger, like I can do everything I want? Or you're struggling on occasion. So as a woman and engineer, do you feel safe?
I would say I haven't had the experience of going to site
Mm-hmm.
yet, as I'm quite new to the role, but I feel safe within the company I'm with. You definitely doubt yourself with being a woman, with
Yeah.
feeling safe, but I would say I do, and there is challenges, but those challenges can empower you, and like you said, make you feel stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of looking at it. I think there are things that come up. I mean, even just like traveling yourself. I mean, even in Toronto, right? Like if I'm walking home alone
Yeah.
after midnight, a certain time, right? It's different things that you think about, maybe that other men don't necessarily need to think about. But in terms of kind of traveling for the job, it's also something kind of that Tasha touched on is the confidence of it, and
Yeah.
having that confidence to walk into a room full of men and kind of assert your knowledge. I think that is the part that I've struggled with the most, and it's taken time to kind of go through the motions and gain confidence in yourself, and it's also, I think, a bit of an age thing as well. It's not necessarily just a woman man situation, so I think that's probably been the most difficult, and yeah, and also too, like an engineering and operator
Yeah.
relationship as well. So there's been different scenarios. Like I was working at a refinery back in Sarnia, and just some of the things that like you encounter and you deal with in terms of the way that some of the female engineers are being treated by the operators, are not things that you typically would be expecting to experience in your day-to-day job. And it's also one of those things like, do you let it roll off your back and let it go and kind of be one of the boys? Or do you bring it up and do you address it? Because then it's also kind of what impact could that have on your career if you're known as someone who brings those things up and wants to address it. So I think those are difficult situations sometimes that females get put in, and also too, like you're working with predominantly men. So if you're trying to have like a relationship of sort in a, like a colleague relationship, but also making sure that doesn't go over the line and that kind of
Mhm.
thing, I think it's also important, right? Like, can you be misconstrued? If
Mhm.
you're too friendly or too
Yeah.
this, like, are people misconstruing that as something else? Like, I think there's a lot of things like that, not necessarily that I've had to deal with, but it's things I think about
Yeah.
Yeah.
in the back of my head.
Yeah. You have to be conscious of
Yeah,
continuously.
and, like,
Yeah.
even what you wear. Like, am I wearing the appropriate, like, professional thing to work? Or also, like, finding female safety boots is way harder than
Yeah.
finding male safety boots. So, like, there's just little things I think that you often spend time thinking about that maybe they don't.
Yeah.
Maybe they do. They have
Exactly.
their other things. I'm sure they also have their other things, but yeah, it's things like that that it's helpful when you have other females in engineering that you can kind of look up to and ask and get their opinion and
Mhm.
perspective. Like even one of my friends was saying like she was trying to reach out to someone and be like, what do I need to wear to the office? Like I don't know. Like what if I'm going on site, like what should I be wearing? And those little things. So
Yeah, I remember when I'm sorry for interrupting you. I was on site once and they asked me like for shoe size. And I said it's free, it's 3. And they said like, okay, Cinderella. Like, that was too small for that their standards. So yes, it's always a challenge. Sometimes, often you're labeled like as a woman who is dressed that way, as a woman with accent, as a woman who is maybe too friendly or maybe too hysteric on occasion if you have something to say too loud. So it's not easy with all that labels, but you have to find some inspiration somewhere. So how girls, how you are finding your energy, and do you have anyone like you are looking at? Like, okay, this woman.
do you have someone off the top of your head?
Um, Not off the top of my head, no. I think like I watch things of, women in STEM and it does inspire you and it makes you feel like you're not the only
Mhm.
person, but also that I work with some women
Yeah.
as well. So I think that's great that I'm able to share that with them. And also it's like what we was talking about then. People can be like, oh, you have to be a part of the guys now, but
Yeah.
I work in a place where all my colleagues support who I am. Like I don't have to be a certain way just to fit in with them. But
Which is really helpful as here today, and not just we today, but it's always like, okay, how to how to encourage women to join engineering, and what we are doing as a society to encourage women to stay in engineering, because a lot of them are actually, even with engineering degrees, are leaving this world because
Mhm.
of some sort. Okay, we are lucky enough here, we're all supported and feel safe and feel happy.
Yeah, I will say though, like that's an important part of it, right? Is creating a work culture that is welcoming and you
Yeah.
feel like you can be yourself in. And I agree, like 100%. The office in Toronto for the ITI group, it's such a great time. I love going into the office.
Yeah.
I'm the only female in the office, but I always have such a great time, and it's never a problem, right? Like being a female, just myself doesn't really matter. And I think, in terms of inspiring, like one thing that does inspire me is actually more so kind of the next generation and seeing them come up and seeing the differences that they can also help make. Like we have a professional women's hockey league now in Canada, which we didn't before. It was only just the National Hockey League. And so I went to one of those games recently, and there was a bunch of young girls there, like with signs saying, I play like a girl and I'm proud of it. And so it's like things like that and seeing how it's changing and kind of seeing the societal norms shift a little bit is what gets me excited. Like I love talking to the younger generation and like doing those outreach events and kind of saying, hey, like, these are options that you can consider as well.
Yeah. I also want to point out one interesting thing in our team, Kelsey. Is like maybe something to share with you, Natasha. It's 8 of us, and there is 4 ladies. So it looks like an interesting environment and different, probably. So how it looks like? No pressure, Kelsey, no pressure. But working with like 3 other ladies in the same team,
Oh,
it's
no,
probably a surprise.
no, but it's also great, right? Because I think coming into it as well, like as a senior consultant, like I want to help you guys, give as much of my knowledge and share that space with you guys as well. Like and Olivera coming in and she's new and young and kind of help mentor her. Like that's something that really excites me because although, I can't necessarily name all the people off the top of my head, I've had so many people that have given me great mentorship over the years, male or female. And I think that is a really important part of anyone's career is having those people that you can go to and continuing to learn from is really important, but also, you need help, bounce ideas off of. Um, I think it's just really important to have that layer and levels of mentorship. So being able to do that with our team and especially the fact that it's females does really excite me.
So, what would you say to young Natasha and young
It's like RuPaul's
Kelsey?
Drag Race. Okay.
So, in the beginning of their journey, starting their uni, fresh, full of hope, would you say, like, okay, keep going or think twice? Come on, Natasha.
I would say never give up. You've definitely got to be determined. Especially with engineering, there's never one direct answer. So you've got to make sure you are determined. And if you hit speed bumps, you've got to try and get past those. And also ask questions as well. I know, like, this is what I found when I was younger and I was in uni. I was quite afraid to put my hand up and ask questions, but no, it's really important to do that. And engineering is we all collab, we all like to share things, So I would say that's very important, yeah. And just keep going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pays off.
I think that's a great answer, especially the asking the questions.
Yeah.
That's so important, especially when you're new somewhere and you're trying to learn things because it's hard, right? Because you don't want to appear, stupid, like you don't know things. You don't
Yeah.
want to say the wrong thing, but it's also important to ask questions. That was definitely an important lesson I learned pretty early on in my
Yeah.
internship. I think for me as well as I would say, like, don't be so hard on yourself.
Mhm.
I think like, I don't know about you guys, but I think one of the things I definitely struggle with is imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
And yeah, exactly, right? And just maintaining that level of confidence. And so, going into certain sessions with clients or things, like I will prepare hours just to make sure that I feel confident and ready. Like there's so much level of preparation I put into it. Whereas other people who aren't struggling necessarily with the same issues might just walk into it and wing it because they believe in themselves so much. And so I think that's one of the things that it comes with time. is the more you do it, the more that you fail, you go through those moments, you succeed, you kind of will build that confidence over time. And so I think I've just always been very hard on myself and trying to make sure that I'm performing or, solving problems the way that I should be. But I think just enjoying it a little bit more instead of stressing about it so much, I would say, is one of the things is that you will figure it out eventually as long as you keep going and keep trying.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, especially about questions, because I've started a little bit older. And then especially when you are like not the youngest person in the room and you have so many questions, it makes such a challenge to ask them. And I couldn't say to younger Yelena, okay, Yelena, do this or don't do that, because I joined this world way later. But I'm absolutely agree with you, ladies. And I would use this opportunity not just to encourage ladies to join us, but also to encourage ladies to stay in this world. And as we are celebrating an international women in engineering week and month, we want to say that here we are not just celebrating ladies and their existence in engineering just 1 week in a month, or just 1 month in a year. We are doing that every single day. And I'm so thankful to both of you ladies for being there with me today, sharing your experiences, and hopefully encouraging some other ladies to join us and be with us. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.